Hello everyone, my name is Thomas J. Barkowski. I am one of two GLATA CECAT co-coordinators along with Jenna Suffel. GLATA CECAT is short for Council for Early Career Athletic Trainers. On behalf of GLATA CECAT, I would like to welcome you to the sixth installment for the Leadership Series. On this episode of the Leadership Series, we have four phenomenal guests: Patrick Ohaver, Andy Renner, Andrea Kovalsky, and Jessica Reitmeyer. These speakers will be talking about the NATA Leadership Academy and their individual experiences. The host for this episode is Vice President of GLATA CECAT, Nick Stevens. Before they get started, here is a screenshot for the NATA Leadership Academy information posted on the NATA website. Throughout this leadership series, a GLATA grant will be mentioned. Here is a screenshot for the GLATA grant from the GLATA website. Please enjoy. Nick, take it away.
Okay. Thank you everyone for attending today's leadership series. For those of you that do not know, the leadership series is a virtual lecture series that the GLATA CECAT Council for Early Career Athletic Trainers has been hosting for a year now. I believe our first one was last year in August. So this is officially the 1 year mark, roughly. The leadership series just pulls from individuals within the District 4 region or that have ties to the District 4 region in some way. To talk about various topics that are of interest to early career athletic trainers, students, and also non-early career athletic trainers. So we have a few people in here that aren't quite early career, but are still interested in continually learning, which we always are going to be supportive of. So without further ado, today's leadership series is about the Leadership Academy with guest speakers Andy Renner, Jessica Reitmeyer, Andrea Kovalsky, and Patrick Ohaver. I apologize if I mispronounce any of your names, but I will be passing it on to the speakers from here on out, and I will be providing a couple of talking points for them, and then we will finish today's lecture with a quick little question from attendees portion. So without further ado, I will let speakers decide who wants to go first, and we can go from there. So the intro, I would just like you guys to basically introduce yourselves, where you are currently, where you're from, education level, and anything else that you feel important or related to the topic.
I suppose I could go first. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea Kovalsky. I am an athletic trainer practicing in Aurora, Illinois. Outreach athletic trainer employed with athletico-physical therapy, contracted out to a secondary school here in Aurora. I've been a secondary school athletic trainer for almost 10 years now. As for my educational background, I had received my bachelor's in athletic training from Northern Illinois University in 2011, finished my teaching certification at North Central College in Naperville, Illinois in 2013, and just finished my master's in athletic training at Illinois State University in 2019. I participated in the Leadership Academy when back actually before, when it was called Star Tracks. That was the old name, kind of before the revamp they did. So I have a little bit of a older perspective, but I don't believe the curriculum has changed a ton. It definitely has undergone some improvements, but I have a few years older perspective on that leadership program.
I can go next. This is Andy Renner, athletic trainer at Alton High School in Alton, Illinois, just outside of St. Louis, Missouri. So I'm currently the Region 4 rep for the Illinois Athletic Trainers Association. Graduated in 2002 from Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville, the old internship dinosaur here, as I like to classify myself. So I've served the last 2 terms as region rep that covers about the bottom third of Illinois. So, it's getting involved in that. One of the things I wanted to look at was just sharpening those leadership skills and communication and things like that. And so that was my interest in the Leadership Academy, which I started, I just finished in January of this year and started the previous year ago, May. So it was about a 1.5 year process. Really enjoyed it and looking forward to discussing it with everyone today.
I'll go. My name is Patrick Ohaver. I am a practicing athletic trainer in the state of Indiana, Northwest Indiana. I'm a contract outreach athletic trainer with Methodist hospitals up here. In Northwest Indiana, I'm the athletic trainer for Highland High School. I have been there for 15 years. And previously, I was in the South, the District 9 in Louisiana, which is about as hot as it is right now here. Speaking of dinosaur, I would probably be the dinosaur of the group. I am an internship dinosaur, but graduate of Northern Illinois University, go Huskies in '96, and got my master's in teaching from Centenary College in Shreveport, Louisiana in 2000. And then I practiced in Louisiana for about 6 years, and then came back to District 4, where I have been in Crown Point, Indiana, and I'm also the Indiana state rep to the GLATA Executive Committee. Also, I spent a lot of time in the History and Archives leadership role for GLATA for the state of Indiana, and I'm also on the Historical Commission for the NATA. Thank you much.
Okay, I'm Jessica Reitmeyer. I am currently in Ann Arbor, Michigan, contracted through U of M MedSport to Ann Arbor Pioneer High School as an outreach athletic trainer with some PT clinic responsibilities. My education is undergrad at Central Michigan for my bachelor's in athletic training. And then I went to Grand Valley State for my master's in healthcare administration. I went through the Leadership Academy while I was at Grand Valley, in addition, like in conjunction with my master's, since I wanted some more athletic training specific leadership in addition to the hospital side. And while I was at Grand Valley, I was a GA in their athletics department.
Awesome. All right. First question of the day. In your own words, what is the Leadership Academy? And also, what are the requirements to joining the Leadership Academy?
I'll go. The Leadership Academy to me was more of like a single course that gave you critical thinking skills, a new perspective on decision making and how to start in the leadership world. The requirements, I believe there was an application, you had to write why you wanted to do it, you had to be an NATA member, state member, GLATA member, and then have your current certification and licensure in your state.
I think one of the big reasons why I chose to pursue the Leadership Academy or Star Tracks when it was that I had the understanding that it was preparation for jumping right into a position of leadership at the state, regional, or national level. And actually, when I introduced myself, I forgot to mention a couple of my leadership positions. So I have been communications director for the Illinois Athletic Trainers Association for probably last 6-7 years. And I'm also the History and Archives Committee coordinator for the Great Lakes Athletic Trainers Association. Did work a little bit on NATA social media for a couple of years, but right now my leadership roles are focused on state and district level. But what I was saying was that, just like a athletic training degree prepares you to become a certified athletic trainer, get a license or registration in whatever state you're in, and practice, I felt that the Leadership Academy gave me the tools, and it was the starting point for pursuing leadership opportunities within state or regional. Not that you actually have to complete the coursework to choose to join or to have a leadership position, but it put me in a much better position to be successful in my leadership positions because I had taken that coursework.
I would agree with Andrea's sentiments there that, it just kind of improves and prepares you. The other thing I would add is, as part of the application process, I believe you need your state president to sign off on your application. Sometimes I think if you're somebody that's not involved in leadership, or you're not involved in a committee for your state association, that might seem kind of intimidating. Don't let it be. Reach out to a board member, whoever it is. We want to hear from people. That's why I got involved in the role I'm in, is to communicate with members. And your state president's going to take the time to do that happily. We're looking for people all the time to step in the leadership role. So if this is something that helps propel you to it, don't hesitate to reach out to somebody on your state board, your president, things like that.
I'll echo that with Andy. You need your state president and your district director to sign off on your application, and so they know your name and they know, hey, this person's interested in a leadership role, and that's a struggle to find leadership people to run for office, basically in our regional and state, at least in Indiana. And I can maybe speak a little bit for GLATA. And now that GLATA is now 2 districts, starting January, there's a lot of leadership openings, and that was part of the impetus on doing the split, to provide more leadership positions for people. I will echo Andrea as well. I wanted to be involved in the leadership program when it was Star Treks, but for some reason, I don't know, it seemed like I couldn't get into the Star Treks program. I always saw it on the national conventions, and there were always these talks that were Star Treks eligible, but I could never figure out how to get into that program. So then when NATA launched the new Leadership Academy, I was transitioning into a supervisory role in our outreach based hospital. So I thought it would be great to get into that. And I did want to have a leadership role in a regional state organization. So it worked twofold for me. And it going through the program, I got some great resources, and then those kind of led into other resources. It's good.
I think one of the pluses, sorry, one thing
No,
I
you're
just
good.
remembered, one of the pluses about that during that application process, I found out that GLATA has either a scholarship or a grant. I hope it's still in place, but there's a bit of there's very minimal like financial commitment you have to make. You maybe have to buy a few books or register for a course or something like that. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, GLATA still has a grant or a scholarship that will pay for most of those fees. A lot of the resources, a lot of the curriculum is free stuff, maybe through the NATA or whatever, but definitely take advantage of that GLATA grant too.
Everyone kind of spoke a little bit on this, but I'd like to have a little focus point if there's anything else to add. But basically, how does one get involved with the Leadership Academy? So what are the requirements? Who should I contact? How to start going about joining the Leadership Academy?
Definitely your state president. I mean, you're going to need their stamp of approval to get started. I would hope that state presidents or many on state executive boards have probably already completed the Leadership Academy or Star Treks themselves. We have a lot of graduates. So if you say, hey, I'm interested in this thing, they can say, oh, here's the application. Because I finished it, here's what you do. So reach out to your state president for sure.
I do know that NATA has a spot on their website as well under the education tab, I believe, some like near the where you do all the CEUs. That's where I came across it. I was just kind of exploring, seeing what education opportunities NATA offered. And then I just so happened when I was at Grand Valley, Gretchen Goodman was our going out state president, and then she connected me with the incoming one. So I was able to have her kind of explain a little more and got the signatures that I needed.
I will echo both those sentiments, ladies. I just was interested in leadership, always have been, even when I was an undergrad. I'll quote, the famous Mike Braid. He did a lot of leadership talks when I was an undergrad, and he's a leader in Michigan, in GLATA, in District 4, and I just was drawn to that. So when it popped up in this way on NATA, I just kept, I noticed it and I applied for it. It's really simple to apply. You don't need, super permission to do it. You fill out the application, you send the email to your state president, and then he'll forward it on to district director or whoever, and then you just apply, and then you're in. And then it's learn at your own pace, which sometimes is tough to do, but sometimes it's easy to do. It took me a while to complete it because I kind of got stuck a little bit, but life happens as well.
Andy, do you have anything to add, or they pretty much hit all the points you were thinking?
I think they pretty well covered it. I would also echo what Patrick just said. It's definitely learn at your own pace, but that can be dangerous. You know, with COVID, I definitely had a lot of time to hammer some of this stuff out during that time. But you know, then when fall football hits and you're swamped for a couple months, you might not get anything done, and that's all right. It's still, you could still learn and use what you've already been taught. So, you know, don't get discouraged, and definitely reach out to anybody. You know, the application process, once you get that letter, it's pretty simple. You send it to NATA. You'll make some contacts there. I would say stay on it, because I can tell you from my experience, I applied and it was one of those, hey, I haven't heard anything in about 6 weeks. What's going on? I'd really like to get started. Follow up and make sure everything's going through, just put it that way. And, you know, that's a busy office, and that continuing education at NATA. So you will get a response, and it's pretty good once you can get rolling.
Perfect. I'm actually going to start this next one with you, Andy, just because, you know, keep it mixed up a little bit. What is the coursework load like? Is it manageable? Is it crazy? Learning your own pace? You've all kind of spoken on it a little bit, but let's just focus on it a little bit.
Yeah, so the current curriculum is 4 modules, and each one is a different topic of leadership. And I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. I was trying to look through my notes from everything today before this briefly. I remember the first one being, you know, being a visionary leader, for example. And then, you know, there's 3 other ones that are in different areas. So, you know, a lot of things about such as strategic planning and strategic thinking, not just strategic planning. But those modules, you know, I think you're allowed, they want you to spend at least a year doing all 4 total, doing the 4 modules. They give you up to 2 to get it done. As I said, I was about a year and a half, and there were some times in there where for 2 or 3 months, I wouldn't be able to get to it, and you just pick back up. It's not daunting. It's not that it's not doable. I'm in a 7A high school with about 500 to 600 athletes, and I'm the only athletic trainer here. I was able to complete it. Granted, we had COVID in there, so there was a pretty big pause when I get some things done. But I feel like even without COVID, I would have been on pace to finish in that year and a half to 2 years. So don't feel like it's overwhelming. You know, there is some reading, there is some online modules. I think you even get a couple of CEUs out of it. So it's beneficial in that regard, and I think you know, it's definitely not overwhelming, I would say.
I can echo that. It's not overwhelming, but sometimes it kind of gets, you have to put into the portal, and nobody's checking your work or grading you, or, you know, it's really how much you get in and what you you get out of it, what you put into it. So, you know, these books, book doesn't show up. There it is. The Critical Conversations book was great. Sorry, it doesn't show up. And then the Qualities of a Leader, this book, you talk about reducing costs and stuff. I got this one from the library on digital download for free. I liked it so much I bought the book, that type of story. So, and same thing with Critical Conversations. I used a lot of my county library for the resources that they asked for. That's I did not take advantage of the GLATA grant. It was not these books, you know, I was able to get online through my library. And then the class that you had to take, it was on LinkedIn at the time. It was still free, so I was able to push through that. You're watching videos through the NATA portal. There's Hall of Famers that talk. Ronnie Barnes talks a lot about things. So there's no you know, big assignment at the end. And I was like you, Andy. I was more like the year and a half kind of thing. It's like, oh, I probably need to get this done before the 2-year mark. So I just punched through the last couple modules. But overall, you know, I when I was a supervisor, I encouraged a lot of my staff to try to at least start it. And some people did, and some people didn't. And then you just kind of see how people matured through it. And I loved, you know, these these books that helped my leadership style, communication, and then that leads to other podcasts. And I'm really big into the leadership podcasts and different things. So it really elevated in my opinion, my leadership attitude and dealing with people and trying to lead people, manage people.
I gotta see this curriculum because mine, when I did Star Trek, was apparently pretty different. And don't take any of this. The Leadership Academy is current. That's the curriculum that you're going to follow. But when I completed Star Trek, there's a lot of the same resources, a lot of CEU videos you had to watch via NATA Education Center. There were, just like Patrick mentioned, there were some courses at NATA that were specifically marked as Leadership Academy or Star Trek eligible. So if you were going to the National Convention, you could attend some of these courses and fulfill those requirements. Or if you couldn't attend NATA, there was an optional other book to read or an article to read or something to summarize and look up. But part of mine, I attended the BOC regulatory conference as part of my Star Trek's curriculum, and that was very, very educational. We just kind of take the BOC for granted, and it was great to see what goes on behind the scenes. That's where I was introduced to the state leadership. What is it? State Leadership Committee or something, where state leaders get together and talk about. I sat at a table next to somebody from Hawaii and asked them, "What's your state association like?" And they asked about Illinois, and so we kind of went back and forth and shared secrets and shared tips on how to be a good state leader. But I never would have gotten that opportunity if I hadn't gone to the regulatory conference. And then one of my requirements, I don't know, do you guys have any kind of requirement about public speaking? Because you either had to show evidence of giving 10 speeches to an audience of 20 or more, or complete the competent communicator level in Toastmasters. And so I did the latter, yeah, and that didn't take me long. It took me about a year. The whole curriculum took me close to about 2 years, but I stayed in Toastmasters for another year or two after that and really, really improved my public speaking skills. I've taken that and given presentations at GLATA and presentations in the school I work at. And I feel like being a leader kind of goes along with being a good public speaker. So I was really fortunate that was part of my requirements.
Like I said before, I was in class mode when I went through the NATA Leadership Academy. I was getting my master's. So I did it in about a year, and I was able to do it while working full-time with 3 of the Grand Valley sports teams, traveling, covering events, everything like that. So that wasn't hard, but I will say the Crucial Conversations book helped me the most, especially with some of my more difficult coaches even. Just how to start those conversations, how to find that common ground, how to get your point across without being confrontational, all of that. So I found that part probably the most valuable out of the Leadership Academy. In addition, it opened up some administrative projects at Grand Valley, and I was able to join the NATA COPA for a little bit in the social media aspect.
Just to add one other point, I do have my notebook here. I've got a binder with everything in it. So and I think that's another thing that comes out of this that's kind of beneficial is if you keep your notes and you keep your modules and kind of print some stuff and put it all together, it's a continued reference as a leader. These are skills that you're going to continue to have to work on and go back to and revisit. Hey, what did I do wrong here? What can I do better this way? Things like that. So just to give you an idea, I do have the 4 modules here. So the first one was vision. The second one is communication. The third was collaboration, which I learned a lot in tremendous module. Thought it was really good. And then the fourth one was strategic thinking. So just to give everybody those 4 current modules.
Yeah, and I like how you mentioned beneficial there, because that's our next point. What did each of you find the most beneficial aspect of the Leadership Academy? And also, what was unexpected in the Academy itself? That's something you weren't really prepared for or just kind of took you by surprise?
I'll jump in. I think that was kind of one of the points that I thought would be good to discuss. So I'll go ahead and take it first. For me, you guys can probably tell already, I'm a talker. And so that generally means sometimes you're not a good listener. So that was something that I really wanted to work on. And I think I've gotten better. But again, as I mentioned earlier, it's a continued struggle, right? You are who you are, and so you're trying to change behavior here a little bit. And so listening for not only what people are saying, but how they're saying it, sometimes the emotion. I thought that was a great point in there. One of the things I was surprised about was I went into this with, okay, what are my weaknesses? What can I improve? One of the great points that I thought in one of the modules they brought out was that, yeah, that's great to spend time trying to improve those things, but also focus on your strengths. Do what you do well. And then it rolls into the collaborative thing of I can surround myself with other people that can do things well that I don't. So I thought that was really interesting that, so much of my mentality of going into this was, okay, I've got to strengthen these things, but don't forget, make those strengths better too. That can improve you as well. So I thought that was neat.
I just did what I liked the most with the communication aspect, but I guess the most surprising thing to me was after completing some of the modules, how much I would notice and be more aware of how I said things, how other people said things, how other people approached things, which kind of surprised me. I thought I was just going through, okay, I'm going to learn this, I'm going to learn that. It's going to bring up this opportunity, and I started noticing day-to-day changes that I could make in the moment after each one of the modules, which surprised me.
I'll say that I'll echo Jessica with the Critical Conversations. That book, I listened to it on Audible in my car multiple times, and I got the book. And in these different podcasts, this book has come up in so many different podcasts. It's unreal. So I guess I was kind of surprised at that. I will tell a little story on NATA. When I was working through it, they changed the platform, so I lost all my notes from the first go through. So I was on the phone with her, and we had to, she could see I completed the X amount of points, but all my notes weren't in there. That was kind of the frustrating part about it. So that's also probably what put me behind a little bit. And I was hoping they would make in my opinion, a mobile friendly version of it, because you have to be, connected to that website to at least when I was in, to do it. So you couldn't, if you're sitting in the airport waiting to go to a convention, you couldn't do a couple of points, or you couldn't take it on the road with you, what have you, if for those people that have to travel. So that was my one criticism. I was like, if you could make it somehow mobile, downloadable, friendly or something, that would have maybe helped people to do it. So and it really is not iPad friendly, mobile friendly. Yeah, you had to be on a laptop or computer and do it. So I know that this, in this age, this time, let people working off mobile devices. So that would be a benefit. So that was kind of surprising to me, but and I echo what Jessica said. You notice things happening. The problem is sometimes I notice things are happening and I still revert to back how I used to do things. So you're like, dang, there's where you needed to do that, So and make the conversation safe, as they say in critical conversation. So but I get emotionally hijacked quite a bit in conversations, which you try to do better on, but at least you see it. So, but that was kind of my thoughts. I wasn't really surprised on the content. I knew it would be good, but I was surprised on where the Leadership Academy took me in my leadership journey down in, professionally and professionally in both aspects, hospital admin, outreach stuff, and athletic training, state and regional leadership opportunities. So that was a pleasant surprise.
I gotta say, I'm a little disappointed, a little sad that public speaking requirement isn't really part of the current curriculum, because that was probably one of the biggest benefits that I got out of Star Treks when I completed it. And really, that's the thing that's helped me give more presentations and get my opinions out there and communicate with people. Like I said, in the culmination of that program, I had to give a 10-minute speech that had been memorized, and I did it. I thought I did very well in front of a bunch of people. By then, they had become supporters, but I could stand up in front of some angry parents right now and talk them down. Probably that was one of the biggest benefits I think I drew from the program. As well, I definitely bought some of the books myself. Like Patrick said, you could check them out from the library. You could read them, return them, whatever. Like, I have some favorites that are sitting on my bookshelf right now that I'll go back and reread. But yeah, that was, there's definitely some good parts, always some challenges. There's going to be some parts of topics that you're like, yeah, I know all this. I don't need to read this. I don't need to go through this. I know this stuff. I've already lived this stuff or whatever. But looking at it again or looking at it from a different perspective can be helpful, even if you feel like you already know, say, how to be assertive and not aggressive or whatever.
So continuing kind of with all of those sentiments and all the other ones that each of you have spoken on throughout the presentation so far, what are your personal experiences with the Leadership Academy? Did you find it pervasing into life, into work, into leadership roles? I feel like I know the answer to that a little bit just based off what each of you have said so far. But let's just focus on that for a little bit.
I think if I can go first, I guess one of the biggest things is that most of the positions I've taken, the leadership positions I've taken, have been appointed, which means that the membership does not have to vote necessarily to put me in that position. It's usually I present a resume and a letter of interest to the president or the board or whatever, and they decide, a small group will decide if they want to appoint me to that position. I think with the background I have in learning and reading and really focusing on what it takes to be a good leader, it's given me the courage to reach for elected positions where I have to communicate my goals clearly to a broader audience, bigger membership, and say, hey, trust me, I'm here to help. I'd appreciate your vote. So that's a little bit, I feel like that's a little bit bigger leap than just, hey, the president or the board or whatever will appoint me to this position.
I'll say while I was at Grand Valley, in the middle of it, our head AT was very aware that I was going through this and wanted to give me some of those experiences to become a leader and take head on some projects. And we actually were able to start a fueling station and get nutritional information out to the athletes. So from that side of things, I was able to create a relationship with our cafeteria and some of the dietitians that were on staff and some of the students who were in the dietetics program and everything, in addition to working with our state and then other school organizations who have also had that. So that was kind of while I was in the academy. And then after I had graduated with my master's and from the Leadership Academy, I went to U of M as one of their fellows. And from there, I was able to get a job that was primarily administrative and minimally clinical. And the Leadership Academy was a huge talking point on my interview and my resume, and was a very unique thing that the director of that program was very interested in and led to me getting that position.
I really don't have much more to add to that. What I've already said, it definitely did well for me. Um, the public speaking aspect, I'm sorry, Andrea, but yeah, it just didn't happen. But I was fortunate enough to do a couple improv classes at my local theater company, so that helps with speaking impromptu. So and they talk about that a little bit in academy, or maybe it was a podcast I heard through the academy about improv. So I encourage any leaders, if you have the opportunity and the time to do it, a couple of improv classes, they do help. It's kind of interesting.
I'd take it one step further. Even we've talked about how it would affect leadership in our jobs and how it would affect leadership within the associations. That communications book, Crucial Conversations, I think it applies to not only there, but into treating patients and how we talk to them and our interactions with them at sometimes, and in your personal life. There, whether it's a conversation with a family member, spouse, etc. It makes you really stop and think about how the other person is interpreting what you're saying and how they're communicating to you. So I think it was pretty useful all around as just a human being, sort of not only.
I think we lost you there for a second, Andy. Okay. We'll see if he can pop back on or connection stabilizes or anything, but we'll move on. And then we can always circle back to that point.
I totally agree with what he said about the book, though. It does lead into your, everyday life, professionally, personally as well, dealing with people and such. So, I mean, that's a great point that he brought up there.
So kind of going off of everything that we've just spoken about, this is kind of the last one that's on script. The rest will be just kind of, anything you want to add before we wrap it up. But this point is, what doors or opportunities has this opened up for you, and how has it helped you within those opportunities?
I'll take part of this one. I've kind of already alluded to it already, but luckily I was in the door with the hospital and middle administrative things, but then we got laid off, and with COVID, and the whole program disintegrated, and then I was back to being staff athletic trainer, picked up by another hospital, and not in a leadership role, which was difficult. But I still have that hunger for a leadership role within an organization. And then I was happy to be appointed GLATA state rep for Indiana, and I get to, as I say, be in the room where it happens. Where I was the GLATA History and Archives chair, but you weren't there all the time. Now you get to be in that room, see how the state leaders go, how our district leaders, communicate. And that's been really, in my opinion, those are experiences you cannot do, through a book or through an academy. And in my opinion, we've been meeting virtually, for the last year and a half. It's been difficult to meet via Zoom in my opinion, to communicate. I like to see people. We like to talk about different things during the breaks or what have you. So that's, I think, where a lot of the networking takes place, and a lot of the, you kind of get to know people and how their communication styles are. So that's what I learned from that, and it's opened a lot of doors as far as how I've been doing education, leadership wise. There's couple podcasts that I listen to. Jeremy Jackson's sports medicine broadcast. He did a leadership series 2 or 3 years ago, and that was exactly the same time I was doing a leadership academy, and they were talking about extreme ownership, that book by Jocko, and read that, really got in deep into that one. He had a lot of great guests on with that one. And then I've been able to contribute with him on the last two podcasts. So it's a topic that I like. It's a topic that I sought out at different conventions. I think NATA's had a couple of presentations on leadership or management of people or interpersonal skills. Dr. Cutts out of Bowling Green, those guys, Trevor Bates, Dr. Bates, they do a great leadership talk at GLATA last 2 years, and it's just that room has been full. Probably needs to go to a bigger room, but I enjoy those conversations. That's just where I am in my professional growth as an athletic trainer at that point. So I know it's not maybe it is a domain that we could, a competency we could get, but it really should be, because we all, as I've always said, athletic trainers are leaders in their own little kingdoms. At Highland High School or at different schools, you are the head person most times, and people look to you for decisions and organization, and then if you have to come into a larger organization such as a college staff or hospital staff or clinical staff, you have to be able to be a team player as well. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
I think one of the biggest things I got out of and how it's helped completing that curriculum was that, you look at some of us and you see, okay, Andy's a state representative, Patrick's a district representative. I work on a couple of positions. Jessica's had some NATA committee experience. It's that, yeah, you can complete the Leadership Academy, and like I said in the beginning, it's a great training program for jumping into a state or district or national leadership position, an official position, but at the same time, it doesn't have to lead to an elected or appointed position. You can just be a leader at work. You can just be a leader, you can just use these lessons. You don't have to, hey, I graduated the Leadership Academy and now I'm gonna go be whatever, treasurer for my state or state VP or president or whatever. No, you can just use it to advocate for your job, advocate for your patients. I gotta go back and read that Critical Conversations book, because you can use that, just like Patrick and Andy have said, to really dig deep into your personal relationships, your interpersonal communication. So yeah, Leadership Academy will definitely prepare you for a leadership role within athletic training or within athletic training associations. But, for me, I really had to advocate. I really had to push and persuade and encourage some other, in my school district recently, school district representatives, that we needed new AEDs. And I had to it turned into kind of a tough conversation. I didn't expect to have some pushback, maybe because of the price or whatever. I was trying to complete that project in the middle of COVID when nobody could spend money on anything. But I used some of those conversational and other lessons that I'd learned from Star Treks and practiced in work to really advocate and encourage, and eventually was able to purchase several new ADs for our athletic training program. So it's not just, oh, you're going to go get a board position out of this. You're going to be able to find ways to use this in your daily life, outside of athletic training.
I agree with both of those things. And something that just came to my mind is I'm also a preceptor for athletic training undergrad students. And like Patrick said, like we don't get enough of that leadership administrative education in undergrad. Like we expect a new grad to go into theoretically a high school or wherever and just know what to do and how to have conversations with their athletic director and how to order and how to do this and how to talk to coaches and make decisions. And So I've definitely tried to incorporate more of those things into being a preceptor for the athletic training students and having those conversations. Being considered new in my career, I graduated from Central with my bachelor's in 2016. So by no means do I have all of the experience or all of the answers, but it's definitely helped me guide them a little bit more in education outside of the classroom and a unique experience at their clinical rotations from all levels, from U of M, Grand Valley, the high school setting. It's definitely been a very valuable tool for me to use in that way too.
Welcome back, Andy. We were just talking on the point, what doors or opportunities has this opened up for you and how has it helped you with said opportunities? So if you have anything you'd like to add, feel free.
Professionally, I don't know, in the secondary school setting, when you're employed by the district, there's not much opportunity to move up, honestly. I would hope in the future that it opened things like, assistant athletic director type positions, things like that. I think leadership wise, it gives you the confidence to be able to take on a larger role. I think, especially in our area with the impending split with districts 4 and 11 now, is going to create a leadership vacuum. And I think this will prepare us to assume larger roles within the state organization or to approach something at the district level with more confidence. So sorry for my technical difficulties.
Not a problem. And then last point for all of the speakers. Is there any advice that you would give to newcomers about the leadership series or the Leadership Academy or just leadership in general or anything like that?
Go ahead, sorry.
I think Patrick said it earlier, you get out of it what you put into it. So if you just want to go through the motions and complete the modules, that's kind of what you'll get out of it. But if you want to take the notes and practice daily and do all those things and be aware of how you are leading, no matter how high up the ladder you are, I think it's definitely a tool that you'll use if you put the effort in to use it.
I would agree with that. And I would just say, if you're not currently on a committee or serving anywhere, serve. It's so rewarding. Especially in the secondary school setting where often you're by yourself, you don't have much of a support network of ATs. It's great to be able to network and just develop relationships and know that people are going through the same things. And hey, we tried this worked, this didn't, those types of conversations. And it's just very rewarding. For the time you put in, what you get out of it, it is very, very valuable. And if this is like it's done for me, made me feel more confident and willing to take on more, if it does that for you, then it's definitely worth it. And that's something that I would recommend it.
I'll definitely echo what Andy said. If you see an opportunity or something that interests you, jump in and try it. Put your name in there. Some commitments are bigger, elected positions. Some commitments are a little bit smaller. Hey, come help us with this thing for the weekend, or hey, come, man this table for 4 hours in the afternoon. And that might be your foot in the door. You meet somebody while you're volunteering, and you create that relationship so that when your name comes up for something bigger, then somebody else already knows you. Definitely serve if you're interested. Serve if it's something you're passionate about or curious about. But just like I said before, you don't have to be in a leadership position to be a leader. You could be a leader on social media. You could be that advocate that has the right voice. You could be a leader you could be the one athletic trainer in your secondary school, and therefore you're a leader. So you can take those lessons and use them that way too.
All those points are super great. Thank you, Jessica, for reemphasizing. You get out of it what you put into it. Because there's some modules I just kind of went through the motions on some of them, but the other ones, I really locked into. So you're not going to, just like anything, you're not going to get, satisfaction out of everything. I guess the piece of advice I say, and this is just for me, it was that, don't get discouraged about the platform too much, and be aware it's not a mobile, thing, and it is gonna take some work. It isn't a 1 hour CE event that you plug in and watch, and then you get and you may not get the CEs out of it, that you want for a year to year and a half project. So some people just do things just, well, I got to get CEs out of it because I have to get my 50 in this year or whatever. You're not going to get that out of this state or out of this leadership academy, but you're going to get exposure to other opportunities, and you're going to be identified as a leader in your area / state by your president and the district. So and you don't have to jump into, you don't have to be GLATA president or District 11 president, just because you took this academy, now they're going to make you run. No, they're not. But you start small. You start be a head of a committee, and you get to see how the room happens and how people interact at those committee level events, and attend those executive committee. You're always invited. You're not required to be there, but if you can be there, stay in until, if they have to go to executive session, then they ask you to leave, and that's okay. But you have to see how the dynamic works, so then you build on that for, hey, I want to be District 11 president, coming up. And as all of us have seen lately, there's not a lot of people that are applying to run for these positions. So, and who knows why that really is. A lot of people are intimidated. I had a hard look at being Indiana state president a couple of years ago, and it was daunting. And it's still something, and now my role has changed. I don't think I could really fulfill that job to the way I would like to. So, but that's always an opportunity. If things change for me, I would like to pursue that potentially. But don't think because you didn't get the position that it's not a popularity contest. So just keep plugging through, and you'll be identified by state leaders, and they will find something for you to contribute. Like Andy said, it's rewarding. It's a lot of work, but you make a lot of friends, network down the road.
All right. Well, that concludes the list of talking points that I had for the speakers. So we're going to open it up to any attendee that may have any questions. If we don't have any, that's all right as well, but I'd like to give a little bit of time. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and fire away, whether it's for a person specifically or just the whole group.
I was just curious how much, like you guys all said it took you a year and a half, or 2 years to do it, but like how much would you think it in hours wise, like how often do you guys actually need to work on it in order to complete it in that year and a half? Like, is this a couple hours every week thing, or is this I don't know. I was just getting a better gauge of how much time commitment goes into it.
I will say I was kind of broken up in that if I was going gangbusters on it and I would have sat down and done every week 3 hours, there's no way this takes a year and a half. I took big gaps because, hey, it was August and there was a million things on my plate, and wouldn't pick it up till October when football ended, for example. That being said, as far as the intensive work goes, I don't think it's that bad. There are some questions you answer online, you read, you review, you answer some more questions, very much self-reflective. I think if you committed 30 minutes a day, couple hours a week, you're going to blow through this thing in a year. I really think so. The thing I will say, though, is they want you to take breaks and use what you've learned in your daily life. So in that regard, you're always working on this while you're doing it. But as far as the intensive thinking about sitting down and reading or answering questions, if you spend a few hours a week on this, you're going to go through it in no time, I think.
I'll echo that, Andy, that, you know, although like you said, you know, the busy time of the year is now through Halloween, Thanksgiving. So you're not really doing much with it. You know, I hit a lot of it during the break times. You know, my February to March time for me is really slow. So I would do the couple hours a week, you know, sometime, you know, around the Christmas break time, I would, you know, punch in a few hours. So that's where the year kind of, because life starts to happen, you know, and you kind of gets pushed to the back burner a little bit, but you got to keep on it. And you're not going to, at least I didn't get any reminders, hey, you need to make sure you complete this by X date. So you have to keep that in your mind going forward as well. And there's nobody prompting you to, hey, make sure you get your assignment in. So it's all self-guided and self-reflective, and you're in charge of it. So I don't know how many hours, 40 maybe overall. I don't trust, you know, work and plugging in. So I don't know. That's my thought. 40 hours potentially.
Anything to add, Jessica or Andrea, or sound like we got everything?
I really can't speak to the current curriculum, but when I completed it, like I said, it took me just about 2 years, but I was working a job and another part-time job on top of that. Somewhere in there, I was probably training for another race, you know. And I put in an hour or two a week, I think. So it was really low key.
Perfect. Do we have any other questions for any of the speakers? Okay, doesn't look like we do. Yeah, so I think this was a very informational leadership series. So thank you, Jessica, Patrick, Andy, and Andrea for speaking on this topic. This video will be posted to YouTube, or we will try to post it to YouTube pretty soon. So be on the lookout. Feel free to spread the word, share it with friends, what have you. And yeah, so thank you all for your time today.